Newsflash, the Georgia defense is smothering people yet again. Last year, obviously, the historic defense, people were concerned about how they would replace it, how they would replace certain guys like Jordan Davis, Travon Walker, Nakobe Dean, etc., etc., etc. I can go down that list. You know how long the list is. Well, so far they've done it, and they're smothering folks again. They're destroying teams. They're dismantling teams. I mean, Oregon scores a lot of points. They put up 70 in a game this year. They put up 3 against Georgia in week 1. All right, Bo Nix is a Heisman contender at this point in time. Did he look like a Heisman contender against Georgia? South Carolina is a top 25 team now that's winning games. Did they look like a top 25 team against Georgia? No, they scored a garbage time touchdown with less than 2 minutes left. Georgia's defense is smothering people by committee. Do they have as much star power as last year, or maybe the star personalities? No, you do have some personalities on this defense. The two that come to mind immediately when you use that word are Jamon Dumas Johnson Pop and Nolan Smith, the senior outside linebacker. Where's the drop off? I've got numbers that back up pretty much no drop off. Georgia's, if you look at all sorts of advanced statistics, Georgia's pretty much top 5 in most of them on the defensive side of the football. And really, most of these teams they played, they've dismantled them, made them score less than what these teams are averaging outside of Kent State, outside of Missouri, who average in that 20 to 30 point range. Obviously, those teams scored that many points against Georgia, but the rest of them didn't, and the rest of them tend to score. And, they're making these offenses look silly, guys. And does it matter who the star power is, or that it's a bunch of names? Some of the names are new, that maybe not all of them are first-round NFL draft picks. The Georgia defense is good again. I think they're better in some areas. I think they're worse in some areas. And I think they're missing their superstar in the middle in Jalen Carter, and that's obviously been affecting them in a way, but it hasn't been affecting them to the point where they can't win these games. And he's played injured, and they've been fine too. It doesn't seem like he's going to be back for Florida. We'll see if he's back for Tennessee. Ryan Clay from DAWGSTRUCTION here talking about Georgia's defense and how they are strangling people again. Make sure you check out DAWGSTRUCTION, our insider look. You're not going to get any other pictures, stories, all of that, personalities from any other crew. So make sure you're checking out DAWGSTRUCTION, our book on the 2021 National Championship team that Georgia put together. And make sure you're using our code DAWG, D-A-W-G. If you're new to DoorDash, you can use it. Download the DoorDash app. If you're new to DoorDash, the code is valid for up to 50% off. Orders are $20. It's a good deal, guys. I know I use DoorDash sometimes. Make sure you're checking it all out. Make sure you're going to Paloma Park on November the 4th, the day before the Tennessee home game. Dean and I will be at Paloma Park. We'll be streaming on here too. Just some housekeeping stuff. Before I read more numbers for you, Georgia's second in scoring defense, allowing 9.14 points per game. The best is Illinois, Illinois. They have a phenomenal defense according to these numbers. They are top 3 in almost all of these categories I looked at. The other category I looked at was total defense. How many yards per game are you allowing? Georgia is 4th at 247, trailing Illinois 1, Ohio State 2. So that doesn't go along with the narrative that is around Ohio State. Boise State 3. So Ohio State's averaging allowing 239 yards per game compared to Georgia's 247. So those are two of the main ones. So Georgia's second in scoring defense, and then total defense. So yardage defense, they're 4th. I mean, that's good enough to win a national championship, right? But the reality is this is a national championship contender. Say it's silly for them to repeat. I'm not even sitting here saying it. I don't know. I do think they're the best team in the country, top to bottom. I do. And usually that is the team sometimes. Not every single time, but that typically is the team that wins the national championship. In college football, the margin for error is very thin. And you got to have these, LSU 2019, one of the best offenses we ever saw. They had a good defense. They had a lot of NFL talent on that defense. Alabama 2020, obviously historic offense, but they had a defense that featured a lot of NFL talent. if you go through the 2010s, a lot of those teams had good defenses that won. And then you go to last year, and Georgia's was what many consider to be generational. So if Georgia's a generational defense, I don't know if it's generational again as far as just historic, but I mean, Jamon Dumas-Johnson. Here, the top 3 tacklers are completely different. The top 3 tacklers, the top 4 tacklers are actually all gone from last year. The 3 linebackers, Quay Walker, Nakobe Dean, and Channing Tindall, and Lewis Seen. Those are the 4 tackle leaders last year. Top 3 this year: Jamon Dumas-Johnson 1, Malachi Starks 2, Smile Mondon. Those are all guys that are younger than being a junior. Those are sophomores and freshmen. Getting it done. Chris Smith, obviously the leader in the defensive backfield. I mean, they're flying around. Smile Mondon coming back for the Florida game is going to be huge. I think Dean and I spoke about this on Riding Home, but he's your freakiest linebacker athletically, and Anthony Richardson is one of the freakiest quarterbacks in college football. Whether I think he's a good quarterback or not, he's one of the freakiest athletically, and he can really damage you guys on the ground. So Smile Mondon, to me, a guy that can maybe go side to side with him, a guy that can track him down, a guy that's going to be around the ball a lot, is really important alongside Jamon Dumas-Johnson, or Pop. We're calling him Pop. Do I even need to say Jamon Dumas-Johnson? I think JDJ is a cool nickname too. But do I even need to say Jamon Dumas-Johnson at this point? So they've got the guys. You got Nolan Smith. You got Keely Ringo. These are guys I haven't even mentioned, really. You got Tyke Smith. Guys like Nazir Stackhouse and Ryan Davis, who have been around a while, are finally getting in there because they waited their turn, and they are good. There were just people in front of them, and that's probably how it's always going to be with Kirby Smart defenses and teams at this point. When you're putting out national championship talent and you're recruiting national championship talent, you're going to have to wait your turn sometimes. That's what you're seeing with some of these guys. Jamon Dumas-Johnson and Smile Mondon are guys only had to wait their turn for 1 year, right? They waited their turn for a year, and then they got it. Chris Smith's a guy that waited his turn for a couple of years. Malachi Starks, rare case, doesn't have to wait his turn. He's an immediate starter because he's that good. Jalen Carter had to wait a little bit to become the guy. Nolan Smith, he was mixed in there. Dan Jackson, who is now out, he had to fight for his spot. Warren Brinson getting some time. He has had to fight. Robert Beal had been around a long time. Zion Logues had to wait. Tyrion Dawkins had to wait a year to get significant snaps. So what you're seeing is the development, the waiting, paying off. What is a better teacher than being a part of last year's defense? Right? Whether they played significant snaps or not, these guys were a part of last year's generational defense. That's going to carry over. Traits are going to carry over. Things that they learned are going to carry over. Characteristics are going to carry over. Skills are going to carry over. They're still in touch with those guys in the league. You don't think that they talk to Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean, that they don't get on the phone with them? They're still in touch with those guys. This defense is strangling people. 0 points. Vanderbilt, Samford, 0 points. South Carolina, 6 points. Oregon, 3 points. Auburn, 10 points. Should have been 3 points. Missouri, bad game for Georgia. Bad game, and those happen. You can't have another bad game. Kent State, weird game. I don't consider Kent State and Missouri game to be in the same category. Georgia's defense, Christopher Smith made a bad play that allowed a big touchdown in that game. No hate for Chris Smith. He knows what he did. But my point is, at the end of the day, is if you look at the numbers and you look at the eye test and you quit worrying about who's on the field, you see this is a spectacular defense again that is just smashing folks. Again, and again. I think they'll smother Florida as well. I don't know if you're going to smother Tennessee, but I think smothering Florida is a very possible thing that we could see here in a couple days. DawgPost.com. Links are down below for everything. Ryan Curley from DawgPost. Thank you. See you at the site, and I'll see you in Jacksonville, hopefully.